welcome to lecture number 3. Welcome to lecture number 3 of the UI UX designing course. So today we're going to be basically learning the very basics and all the tools that are present in Figma. So we're going to be learning the basic, simple things on Figma, and we're also going to be learning a little bit more intermediate things, right? And the advanced tools on Figma will be hosted by Usher in tomorrow's lecture, right? So today we're going to start off. Hopefully the recording is started. Yeah, it's started. And if you guys have any questions throughout the session, if you guys want me to repeat anything, please let me know. I'm going to try to be very thorough with the tools, but I will also try to not keep this lecture very long. Some of the things we're just going to flow through. They're very easy, but some of the things will require a bit of time and practice on your end as well, right? So if you guys want me to stop, repeat something, please do let me know in the comments or in the chat, and I will do that, okay? So let us start. Let me just share my screen, and we will start. And if at any point of this lecture, if you find that I am lagging, if my internet connection's bad, just please do let me know, and I will try to fix the problem immediately. Yeah, so today's agenda is quite extensive, as you guys can see, but don't worry, it's nothing too long. It's not gonna be very, like, a lot happening, but it's just gonna be 20 things that we're gonna be learning today, okay? But don't worry, we're going to figure that out very fast and very easily, so don't worry about that. Okay, so let's start with Figma. So first things first, this is Figma. So all you need to do to join Figma is basically you go into your Google or your browser and you click on the tab and you search Figma, right? So once you click on Figma and you enter, you are going to have an option to sign in if it is your first time using Figma. But if it isn't your first time using Figma, then you're obviously already going to be logged into your account. So let me just show you quickly what it looks like, what the interface of Figma looks like when you are signed in to the website. Yeah, and thank you, Ilsa. We can also have an app downloaded on our PC. Figma basically gives you an option to download the app onto your desktop, right? So you guys can do that, but just be sure that it only can be downloaded and can be editable app on like your desktop. It cannot be edited on your tablets or on your mobile, right? So even if you do get an app, all you can do in that is you can preview your files. You cannot edit those files if you are downloading the app in your tablets or on your phones. But the only way you can really work through thoroughly and have a bigger screen is through a laptop, right? So yeah, Chrome's website is honestly so much better. So you're basically going to have this interface. You're going to have this new design file. If you don't have, like, if you're not paying to use Figma, then you're only going to have a limited supply of these design files. So if you can, just make sure that you can, recycle the files that you do have. So this is your new design file. And basically I created one just to kind of push you guys through how we're going to go about this. So this is the new design file. And this is the one thing that I was showing you here, which is day 3. So we're just going to click on this, right? I'll close this one just to get rid of things, right? So this is loading. This is what it looks like. And now we are on to our design file. So this basically is going to be like this huge like workspace for you. You can work anywhere. You can zoom in, zoom out. See, this is where the text is. So basically you're just going to zoom into the text, and here we go. So today I'm going to basically lead you through all of these things, right? So we're going to go through all of the stuff that we have going on around here. I'm just going to align my Zoom settings a little bit. Yep, that works. Right. So basically what we're going to do right now is we're going to go through all of these tools here, right? So you guys can know how to navigate your way through your Figma file or your Figma website. So it's okay, Zoya, you're just on time. You're just starting with Figma, so let's get into it, right? So the first thing you're gonna do is today we're gonna start with move. What is the move tool in Figma, right? So this is the move tool. You see this arrow? When you hover over it, it's gonna say move. So what the move tool basically does, it allows you to move things around, right? It's very similar to your hand tool, where your hand tool just grabs things and it moves things around. So this is exactly what the move tool does. It's just your arrow, it's just your default default tool that you're always going to be using to move things around, click on things and stuff like that, right? So that's what the move tool does. Now, when you kind of click on this drop down here, there's an arrow pointing down. You click on that and you're going to get two options. So one is move, we've already talked about it. And the second one is scale. So when you click on scale, what exactly does scale do? Let me give you an example, right? So first things first, let me make two squares, right? I'm gonna teach you how to do this as well, but just let me give you a quick example. Let me make it into a square, so I'm going to change its settings to 250, right? So now it's a square, it's a perfect square. Now, for example, I want to make this square a little smaller, right? I want it to look smaller. I want it to just work that way better. So I wanted to resize it. Let's just put it that way. Now, if I want to resize it, notice how it's turning into a rectangle because I'm putting pressure on some parts more than the other. But I just wanted to shrink its size. I didn't want to, like, make it into a rectangle or change its shape entirely. I wanted it to continue to be a square as I'm putting it, as I'm making it smaller. So look here. The width is 165 and the height is 192 instead of 250 that I had initially kept. They're not the same. They're no longer a square. So what exactly does the square tool do? So the scale tool, basically, when you click on scale, or you can also simply just press the letter K key. So when you do that, you can automatically just scale it. You can automatically just resize it. You don't need to worry about the shape changing or the dimensions changing. See, the width and the height are the same. It remains a square. So this is a very, the letter K, K for kite. So just press that letter. Okay, just write it down here for you. The letter K, just press that and you are going to be good to go with the scale key. So if you, for example, this is a square, I press the letter K and I can just simply scale it like so. Okay, that's how it works. So this is what you do with the scale key. If you at some point forget, oh my God, like what do I do? Like how do I scale my shapes and stuff? You can always see the letters are written right at the right side. So if you press the letter V, you can have the move tool activated. If you press the letter K, you can have the scale tool activated. So this is also just an easy way to kind of remember your keys. So this is a very important tool, especially in web designing, because a lot of the times you want to resize things, but it's really hard to resize them if you're not scaling this shape. So that's simply what the move and the scale tool does. Is everyone clear till now, or do you guys want me to repeat something, or do you guys want me to explain something better, or anything? If you guys have any confusions or questions, just let me know. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay. So we're done with the move tool. We're already done with the scale tool. See, we're going through with this like super fast, super thorough. It's not anything too hard. So let's go with framing. Now, frames are extremely important in web designing, right? Because frames are basically that very background or that very canvas that you're going to be designing on, that you're going to be making your website on, right? So basically in Figma, there's this absolutely amazing thing that you guys can do is instead of looking for the dimensions of a laptop or of an iPad or of a tablet or of a phone, what Figma does is it gives you that option itself. So here you can see you have the frames and the dimensions for a phone. So if you want an Android large, if you want to design for an Android large, you can do that. If you want to design for a tablet, you can do that. If you want to design for a desktop, you can do that. So let's just take an example of a phone, right? So this is the phone that we're going to be, for example, designing on. This is exactly the kind of frame and the kind of dimensions that an iPhone 14 one would have. So when you're designing accordingly onto it, it's going to reflect exactly how the design is. It's going to be basically a responsive design, right? As far as you guys remember from what Usher taught yesterday, he taught you something about responsive designing and how designs need to be responsive to the dimensions that they're shown on. So this framing basically really helps with a responsive designs, because for a designer, they have to design for a desktop, they have to design for a tablet, they have to design for a phone. So these frames really do help with that, right? And another thing is, because you've already automatically chosen a frame of a phone on Figma, because you're not choosing like separate dimensions, but it's directly an iPhone 14. So when you click on this play button here, right, to present your design to someone, you click on this play button. Let's see what happens. Let's just let it load, and then we will see what happens. Usually the presenting thing takes a little bit of time, but we will wait for it to work. See, it's loading. So I simply just clicked this button. There's a play button on the side here. You see this next to share. It's just going to give you a preview or a presenting option. So just press this button, this play button on the top. Okay. Usually this part takes a lot of time. I don't know why it always renders and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Can you guys see? Okay. Can you guys see this? Okay, I turned off my video, so it's better for you guys to hear me because that's the more important part. So here we go. We see a phone here, an iPhone 14, which is again loading, but now it's going to work perfect. So here we go. See how it's showing you exactly what an iPhone 14 is going to look like. And this is going to show you design. Once you start designing on it, once you start writing text and stuff, it's going to show up on your iPhone, so you can exactly see how to proportion your design. Is that clear to everyone, or do you guys want me to repeat something? Hopefully I'm not lagging again, so just let me know. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this is what exactly a frame does. It's also just gonna give you a mock-up of your design, simply put, right? Okay, so we're gonna delete this. Now, next up is frame. Okay, so there's another thing that you can do. For example, you put up a shape, right? You put up a shape and you're designing on it, you're writing a letter, you're writing text like, I am amazing. Let me just make this dark. Right. For example, you put a text on your rectangle. You didn't want to use a rectangle, you wanted to put a frame, because frames are always better. How exactly do you do this? You've made your entire design. Now, what do you do? So what you can do is you simply press on your right click. You right click onto the rectangle and you go into this option which says frame selection. Once you go into frame selection, this rectangle has now turned into a frame. Do you see this? So now anything you put out of it is going to be out of it. And now you put into it and you see automatically how the I am amazing text is within this frame. So now you can drop it down. All the elements that come in here are just going to be within the frame. It just makes your work a little more organized. If you drag this text out of your frame, see how it's automatically above your frame now. It's no longer a part of your frame. So that's why frames are so much more better than a rectangle or a shape for you to design on. Because let me give you an example again. If you use a rectangle, right? You use a rectangle, and let me just show you the difference between a frame and a rectangle. And you simply put your text onto it. You see how the rectangle and the text are not aligned with one another. They're not associated with one another in any way, shape, or form. They're just separate elements in your dropdown. When you put it into the frame, it's automatically in your frame, and you can always just like close it down, make it more concise, just compress the file. So frames are just so much better. And for you to convert a rectangle into a frame, all you need to do is right click and press the frame selection. So now see how this rectangle is also turns into a frame. So this is just something that if you forget to convert a shape into a frame, if you forget to work on a frame and you started working on a shape, this is just something you can always do to fix that problem. Right? Is that clear? Okay. Perfect. Okay. So now we're going to do something that's called Splice, right? A lot of the times you're not going to be using the Splice option, but if you do, you got to know why it's used. So before we go into the Slice option, let's go into the sections option. Now, sections are very, very, very helpful when it comes to web design, right? What to do if you want to delete the rectangle, you just simply click on the rectangle and you either click backspace or you click the delete button on your keyboard. So just simply do that and you can delete your rectangle. Okay, hope that's clear. I can just show that to you as well in a bit. So first things first, what I was saying is sections are very important in web designing because when you make different sections, it's basically like, think of it like a folder, right? So you have your desktop and then you have folders in it that organizes your work, right? So sections are pretty much exactly like that. What sections do is it organizes your work for you. So for example, you just have, yesterday Usher taught something about, the landing page, right? Usher talked about, there's specific pages for an app and a website, and then there's like other pages that you can go through with. So what these sections can help you do is just kind of understand where each thing is going to be. So you can make separate frames. Just click Control D to duplicate your frames or duplicate any element on your website, right? So you can also rename your section. So for example, this is my sign up page for a website. So anything that has to do with the signing up into the website, they're all just going to be compiled within this one section, right? If you, for example, then you have another section or another thing that you have going on, which is, for example, let me just, right? So another thing that you can do is, for example, this is your product web page. So it just kind of collects your frames all in these small folders for you to navigate through the Figma file better. Now see how the sections have kind of divided and you can always search. For example, you want to look for your product web page in this big Figma file. You simply search it and then you're going to get it here. So there's this search toggle right here. So it just makes everything more organized. Yes, Ilsa, perfect. So section 1 can have one set of information and then the different frames pertaining to that information. Exactly. You can just collect your frames a lot better, your information and your designs a lot better through sections. And again, it has that drop down option. So you can always compress them and then make it a little more neater on this left side, right? So is this clear to everyone? Also, Kirat, I think you just texted and asked me about recorded lectures. It's totally fine if you missed the recorded lectures. We do upload them on our YouTube channel. We will be sharing the link as well on the insiders group. So just stay tuned for that. And then you can always go back to those lectures. Okay. Hope that's clear. Don't worry if you missed out. Just take notes for today's class and then you can always go back to them. You're welcome, everyone. Welcome. Okay, But here, don't worry, this is the very first class where we're teaching Figma, so you're not missing out on much. You're just missing out on a lot of theory for designing, which you can always go back to and then work on. So for now, just focus on Figma. It's completely from scratch. How to delete stuff. Okay, I'll tell you, Aisha, don't worry. Basically, what you do is you, for example, you want to delete this frame number 6. You click on this frame, right? You see how these small boxes are showing up around it. And then you simply press the delete key or your backspace key on your keyboard. That's all you do. Just delete it like this. If you want to collectively delete everything, so you just basically press your left key on your mouse and you drag the whole cursor and you just delete everything. Okay? That's how it goes. So far we have already done move, we've done scale, we've done framing, we've done section, and now we're going to talk about splice. Okay. Oh no, we're going to talk about splice. I don't know why I write splice. Splice. Does Figma Web work the same on tablets? Yes, Figma Web works the same on tablets. In fact, I have been using it on my iPad for quite a while now. So just today for the session, because I had to navigate Zoom and everything, I have it on my laptop, but usually I use it on my iPad. So don't worry, it works perfectly fine on tablets as well. Just the app would not work, but a website would work perfectly fine. Okay, now let us start with this third option, which is splice. Now, what does splice mean? So for example, you have this design. Let's just think of this circle as a big design. Okay, let me just align this to 78. Yeah, it's a circle. And now let's say we want a semicircle. We want like just a part of this and we want to export it as a file. What do you do in that case? Let me just color it red. Yeah. Now, for example, we have this circle, but we want to export just like a part of it, just like a very small part of it. We want to export it as a file. We want to import it in something else, right? We just want to use it. We want to use a semicircle, right? So what you're going to do, Japan? No, it's not Japan. It's not the flag of Japan, guys. Okay, so what you do is you click, okay, let me just show you. Sorry, I went through that very quickly. So you open this option right next to your arrow. You just open this option and you click on slice, right? You click on slice, or you can simply press the button S. Once you've clicked on slice, you see you want a semicircle. You did this. Now that you've gotten this, you're going to go into export. So it selected this exact part of your circle because that is the part you want to export. That's the part you want to use for another design. You go into export and here you see a plus sign, right? You simply click on this plus sign and then you do export slice 1. Once you do this, you're going to basically have another option and then it's going to give you how to download. Ahyan, I'm going to explain this to you one second. Okay. So then you basically get this preview and stuff like that on what is exactly being exported. So let me just delete this and let me show you again. So let me just drag this away from the text. Right. So what you do, Ahyan, is you simply either press the S letter on your keyboard, or you can just go on a longer dive into this drop down and click on slice. Once you've done that, you can do a drag and then export. For exporting, see how you chose this part, and that is exactly the part that's being exported for your file. Do you guys understand that? If you want to just export a part of your design, that's exactly how you can do. And if you're not sure of what exactly is being selected, you can always go for a preview of what is going to be exported from your file. Hopefully this is clear. Usually you guys won't ever need to use the option splice. But if you do, it's just good to know how this works. Okay. How will we get the property? Okay, I'm getting to that. Don't worry. I'll explain all of the shapes and everything to you. That is exactly the next thing that we're getting into. So, okay. So now you see how there is an option here that's a circle. right next to your frames, there's a circle option. It says ellipse over here, right? For most of you, it might say a rectangle because that's the first property that comes up. So that is exactly where you get your shapes from. So you have an option for a rectangle for which you can simply press the letter R on your keyboard. You have an option for a line for which, again, you can just simply press the letter L. For an arrow, you're going to have to press a shift and an L these are just some shortcuts that just make your life a little more easier. But if you don't remember them, you can always go into this drop down. So for example, you want to make a square or a rectangle. You can do this. See, you can completely make this however you want. If you want to make it smaller, then you can always go back to the scaling option for which you can simply press the letter K and you can scale this rectangle, make it smaller. Okay, hopefully this is clear. We can also go for a circle. There's a circle here, right? We have a line. Now, for example, you want to make an arrow, then you can always go for an arrow as well, right? You can change the color of your arrows and all of this stuff from here, the stroke option here. I will get into all of these parts as well, so don't worry. We will explore these as well when it's the right time. So you can change the colors and stuff, right? Is that clear? How will we get the properties? Are Photoshop and Figma tools the same? No, Photoshop is a little more complex. There's quite a lot of differences in Photoshop and Figma. But hopefully when we do get to learn Photoshop, you guys will be able to compare them. Yeah, we can have different shapes as well. Also, Kirat, I would suggest you can ask these questions like on the group collectively. So if anyone else has a question as well that's the same as yours, they can help. They would benefit from. Okay. Lovely. So these are shapes, and this is exactly, you can always play around with these shapes and stuff. So how is it? Are you guys catching along fine? Is it all good? Are the shapes clear to you guys? You can also go for a star, a polygon, an ellipse, the rectangles, and stuff like that. Right? We're also going to figure out how to exactly edit these shapes, how to change their colors, how to put in effects and stuff, and all of that. Yes, of course, Kanat, you can always ask me questions after the session. Once we've ended it, you can stay back, and I can explain things to you. So that's also an option. Now, next step, we're gonna go into importing images. So this is another option that you guys can do. For example, you just want to import an image from your desktop, from your browser, from your computer, but it's something that's not something that's in Figma, right? You cannot get it. So you basically import it from your computer. I'll give you an example. So once you click on that button, you will be able to import any image that you have in your desktop. So I already downloaded a special image. For those of you who are not part of the Insider Spam group, this might be confusing, but for people who are in the Insider Spam group, this will be very symbolic, very symbolic. So here we go. We have a duck. Yep, there's a duck here. So you basically, yeah, I don't know if Sharik is here, but Sharik, this is a tribute to you, a duck for you. Yes. Yeah, I'm living up to the name. What has he done? What has he done at this point? Okay, so we have a duck here. That is lovely. Very lovely duck. It's a very big rubber ducky. So this is how you can simply just import images into your Figma file. So you can always go for here, this is option. I'm going to repeat it again. So you see a square here. You're just going to go into place image or video. You're going to go in here and you're going to grab your image. Once it's given that image is selected, you simply click on open. Here it's going to say click or drag to place. It says place all or discard all. If you discard all, the image is never going to reach the Figma file. But if you click on place all, this is again another rubber duck. Here we go. We have so many ducks. So this is exactly how you simply just import PNGs or SVG files. But for designing, I would recommend you guys to use an SVG file instead of a PNG. So an SVG file instead of PNG. Okay, in Figma, always try to import and export SVG files instead of PNG files. Just remember that you don't need to know the theory behind it. I think you will figure that out as you kind of play around with it, but just remember an SVG file is so much better. Imagine making a website, then just have ducks and nothing else. Oh my God, yes. I think Sharik is very much capable of doing that. I am very confident in his abilities to create a duck website. So I'm going to delete these ducks. They're going to leave. They're going to go. Goodbye, duckies. Goodbye. So they're going to go. Yep. Okay. We're already pretty much, we're making progress. See, I guess hopefully you guys are learning something from this session. And I am not going too fast or too slow. Next up, we're going to go into the pen and the pencil tool. So simply for the pen tool, all you need to do is you can click a P. I'm going to go more in detail with the pen tool. So first, we're going to start off with the pencil tool. Simply for the pencil tool, you can just draw around on Figma. The pencil tool is honestly pretty boring. It's nothing new. There's nothing going on here. That's all it does. It's just basic pencil tool. Okay. So you don't really, I've never really used the pencil tool, honestly, on Figma. So I don't know why you guys would need it, but if you do, just play around with it. Then we have your pen tool. Now, pen tool is very interesting. Pen tool is a little complex as well, but hopefully we're going to get through it. So this is your pen tool, right? You've selected pen tool. All you do is you click on your capital P. Now, once you've clicked on one, you just press your mouse and you kind of just put these pointers in place. So you're just clicking and you're leaving these pointers in place. And here we have a square, right? Yeah, pen tool is very, very, very cool. It's a very cool feature. If you guys really master the pen tool, designing will be just so much more fun, right? So now this is our pen tool. Now, for example, I want to just keep making designs and stuff like that. Now, this is something that you guys are confused about, like, what's going on? Why is this curvy? What is happening? Let me just show you. Also, the whole reason I got rid of the cursor, the curves were through Control Z. So you basically just undo what you've done. I'm going to click on done here, right? Now you have a perfectly beautiful square, rectangle, all of this stuff. Tracing might actually really do help. Other things that I would recommend is watching few tutorials, because I think everyone uses the pen tool a little differently. And there's just so many things that you can do with a pen tool that I won't be able to cover in this lecture, because obviously I'm teaching you guys basics. And the pen tool is a very complex tool, right? We can always have a workshop for the pen tool only, in which Usher and we both can work on it. So I'm just teaching you the very basic things for the pen tool. But if you really, really, really do enjoy using the pen tool, there's so much you can do, right? So if you want to edit this tool, right? You want to edit your stupid square that you have just made, and you're like, I want to give it borders. Like, I want to make it a little rounder. I want it to look, just like a little better. What you can do is you can make its borders thicker. Right now, you can see how this line is extremely thin. It's barely visible. There's not much going on. You click on your square. I don't know. I'm just thinking, this square's a little stupid. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, so what you're going to do with your square is you're going to make its borders a little thick so it's a little more visible. All you do is you simply come here. Here you see these lines, right? These horizontal lines that are becoming thicker as they go down. Simply under stroke, under the heading of stroke, you simply go here and you change your number to 5 to 10. You can even go to 100. That would just work perfectly. Now see how this color has, however, dimmed down. That's because here under layer, the opacity has become 10%, right? We're going to dig deeper into all of these tools as well. Because they're so interconnected, you're bound to kind of understand. Because it was 10%, you could only just see a little bit of this border. But now we're going to do 100% opacity and see how the color just comes back, right? So this is basically what the pen tool does. For example, you want to make the borders of this rectangle, this square or rectangle, whatever it is, round. You just want to make it round. So what you're going to do is you come here. Right under here, you have this curve here, right? In this curve, all you're going to do is basically, you're just going to change your settings to 10. However, whatever the strength of the roundness that you want, you can always go about it. So you can either do 10, you can do 20, you can do 50. Just play around with it to see how it looks for you. Are there options not available for when you make the rectangle through the shape option? Yes, of course. Those options are also available through that as well. So for example, let me give you an example. There is a rectangle here, right? So let's make a rectangle. Perfect. Now you have this rectangle. Let me just fill it up into a color. This is perfect. So we have this color for the rectangle. Now here you have stroke, right? Stroke simply just means a border of this shape. Now here the shape's border is barely visible. You see how the black is barely visible? All you're going to do is you're going to come here. You can play around with the border again. You just do a 10. See how the border is black. I can change the color of the border as well from under stroke. Just simply come here, change it to white. So you always have that option with shapes as well. If you want to make the borders of this a little rounder, you can come here and you can change the borders. You see how it's round, it's 20. Now, another thing that you can do is, for example, let me just bring this back to sharp corners. For sharp corners, all you need to do is click 0 and you have sharp corners. Now, for example, you want to change the shape or you want to change the radius. Instead of just clicking here, all you can do is simply come here, come onto your shape, and you're going to see these small circles at the corners. These small, very small circles at the corner. What you're simply going to do is you're going to click on these and you're going to bring them inwards. You're just going to bring them towards the center of your rectangle or your shape, and you can see how it's collectively changing the corner radiuses of your shape. See? It's working perfectly fine, even if you do it with just a mouse. Another thing that you can do with the corner radius is you can change the corner radius of selected points. So for example, you just want to change the corner, this corner. You just want to change and make it rounder on the top left side. What you're going to do is you're going to come here. Right next to the corner radius option, there is independent corners. You click on that and see how you're going to have 4 sides here. And as you hover over these, as you click on these, it's going to show you which side exactly is it going to turn around. So if you click on this, it's going to be this particular side. If you click on this, it's going to be this particular side. For example, let me just change it to 20 and see how all the rest of them are exactly sharp, but this is the only one that is rounded. I can make it a little more prominent as well, make it 50 for you guys to see it better. See? This is completely independently changing into a corner radius. Hopefully the corner radius is clear to you guys. Is that clear? Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we're going to go into the text tool. I know the pen tool is very complex, so I think it's best to hold perhaps like a separate workshop for it, because there's so much you can do with the pen tool once you realize how important it is and how much fun it is to kind of make shapes with it, play around with it, do things with it, right? There's a lot of things we can learn, but of course we just need to learn the basics today, so we're not going to go into the depth of the pen tool. Next up is text. Now, how exactly did I do this? How do we add text? Simply click on this T here, right? Once you click on this T, it's going to give you an option this plus sign, all you do is you left click on your mouse and you drag and you make a text box. You can write, I love Figma. Like for example, you wrote, I love Figma. Now, how exactly do you want to, for example, you want to change the font of this text, right? Once you're not clicking on anything, nothing is showing up. If you're not clicking the text box, nothing is showing up on your right side. Once you click on, okay, I will explain that to you as well. Here, one second. So once you click on your text box, you double click on it to edit it simply. You're going to have an option. So you select your text, and here we have just a bunch of fonts, just so many fonts that you can play around with. These are all fonts that are in Google. So these are all your Google fonts. You can just kind of play around with it. See how this just planted because it's a type 1 font, right? You can obviously go for something weirder. See, I love Figma. Now you want to make this a little bigger. You want to make this font slightly bigger. You go here. See how there's numbers here? You're just going to simply go here and you're going to click on 96 or whatever number that you feel now. Now, for example, you want this text to be in one line because that's how you wrote it, right? So what you can do is you can come here. There's this double-sided arrow. It says auto width. If you guys can see it on your screens, if you have Figma open or whatever, then there's an option called auto width. Simply click on that and see how the text just aligns in one line because that's exactly how you want it to be, right? So simply, this is what you do with your fonts. We've also covered the font size. We've also covered this auto width option. I really love the auto width option. It just makes everything so much more easier for me. Now, for example, you want to align it as well. You can always align it to the left. You can always align it to the center or to the left as well, right? Another thing you can do is you can align it vertically or horizontally. You can align it in the middle. You can align it at the top and all of this stuff as well. So for example, like, let me give you an example of this. For example, I just click on enter and then you can always align it to the center or to the top. Okay, never mind. Anywho, other things you can do is for some fonts, you have the option to make it bolder. You can have an option to make it thinner. So if, for example, we go back to our initial font, which is called Inter, we go to this font, right? Wait, let me just select the text. We go to the font Inter. Simply go here and you click on Enter, right? So what you have an option here is now automatically this option gets activated, which makes you either convert it into a thinner text, you can convert it into an extra light text. You can, now this is a very important and a very helpful feature when it comes to, you know, creating typography that is in the form of hierarchy, right? So if you want a subheading, it could be just extra bold. If you want a main heading, then it could be really bold, stuff like that, right? So you can always play around with this feature, but it's only available for like the very basic fonts. So you're gonna have to figure that out as well. Zoya, it's totally okay. Thank you for attending the session. Don't worry. You can always go back to the recording. It's totally okay. Right. Yeah, exactly, Zainab. It's kind of like Word. I think text is a very simple, very self-explanatory tool, but just like wanted to explain to you guys. Now, one thing that you guys need to know is when, for example, you're working in a team, right? So there's a lot of designers, like for example, me and Usher are working on designing the website for Knowfly. So a lot of the times I'm working on something and then Usher wants to give me feedback. So it's just not feasible for him to make voice notes and send it to me on WhatsApp. And he's just like sending me and I'm like, which part of the design? Like, what are you talking about? Like, please highlight or send me, you know, like screenshots and stuff, right? So what we can simply do in a collaboration is here we have at the very end of your tools is a comment. This comment option simply allows you to put a comment. Hey, this looks great. Maybe make some changes in the font. So see how you can simply just leave a comment and you just click on this up arrow to upload that comment. So for example, I'm coming in, Usher has left his text, and this is the particular section of the design that he wants me to kind of review again. So I'm just going to hover over this and I'm going to see his comment and I'm going to be like, okay, this is what he wants me to change, right? So, and then once I've acknowledged his comment, these comments are showing up here. A bunch of comments are going to slide down here. If there's more comments, they're all just going to come up here. For example, if I show another comment, right? I will say, I love this. So these comments. Now this is a very, see, now this comment is also shown up here. Once you've acknowledged the comment, you could simply just click on this tick, or once you've resolved the issue that has been pointed out, simply click on this and you are done. You're good to go, right? So this is a very important feature when you're working in a team, when you're collaborating with people, or when you just simply want someone to review your design and give feedback. So this is very fun tool. Right. Or if you just want to tease and annoy your fellow teammates like Usher does, you can also do that, where you just write annoying things on your comment section. That's also something you can do. Just annoy your teammate. Right. So we are done all the way till 12. So we've also done the border radius as well. And we've also covered layer opacity, something we can also just touch upon again. So for example, this is a rectangle. Also, Kirit, we can add fonts that aren't available on Figma, but there's like a very extensive process where you have to kind of play around with Figma in a way. You have to change its settings and stuff. It's really extensive. Something you can do is perhaps work on Canva, because in Canva you can import fonts. And once you've imported fonts in Canva, you can just export them with a transparent background as an SVG file, and then you can import it into Figma. So again, that is again a very long process, but that's the best option you have, unless you want to alter the settings of Figma and figure it out. We will share a resource for you to kind of explore. So yeah, you can do that. Zoya, it's okay. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna go with a rectangle. So this is a rectangle, right? And you want to play around with its opacity. You want it to be just a little more, you know, translucent. You don't want it to be completely opaque. So what you do is you come here in the fill section and you simply change the opacity to either 50. See how it's automatically just duller, it's a little more see-through. So that's how you can change the opacity of your shapes, right? We're almost getting towards the end, so just hang in there, guys. Now we have, again, another thing we can do is, for example, we have a circle and you want to fill in color into it. So what you do is automatically when you're on the circle, you can have an option to fill this shape with color. Once you go into fill color, also if, for example, this right now is covering up my shape, it's really annoying. I cannot see my circle. What you can do is simply drag this elsewhere on the screen. That works perfectly fine as well. So you can just simply drag it around your screen so you can see the element you're working on perfectly fine. So let's choose a bright color. This is a very ugly color. Let's not go there. So this is a color, right? See, simply with a fill option, you can fill in the color and play around with the hex codes. If you want a particular hex code, you can add it here, right? You can always just write down the particular hex code of the color that you want. And you can also play around with the opacity right here, right? Another thing you can do is you can make gradients through your color filter. So what you can do is once you click on this drop down where it says solid, you have all of these options. You can import a image into the circle. You can have a gradient that looks a little more like a diamond. These are some things that you can work on. And then there's also a linear gradient or a radial gradient. The most that we use is the linear gradient. So let's go into linear gradient. You see how automatically it is into a gradient. Now, here the gradient color, you can also change the gradient color. So for example, right now in this part, it's just the opacity that's been lowered, right? So see how the opacity is 0%. You can also change the color of this particular box. So you can blend in colors, see how the colors are changing. So it's pink now, and you can also increase the opacity for it to look a little better. You can change the opacity to 100 even and play around with the colors. So, and if you, for example, you want more of pink, right? So you simply just drag it up towards the center, or just, you can also twirl it around wherever you want the gradient. This is exactly how you can just do gradients. It's a really fun thing to play around with. It's a fun tool. Gradients are fun. And Asher loves gradients very much. You can see it all over Knowfly. So if you've seen the website, this is how he makes gradients. This is how we make gradients. Hopefully this is clear, guys. Let me know if this is clear. Also, if you want, for example, you want more than 2 colors, you simply come here. Yeah, I can show the gradients again. You can simply come here. If you want more than 2, you can come here and you can click on this particular spectrum. You click here and automatically you get an option for another box, which you can change the color. See how you can change the color and do this and make really nice gradients. You can change the opacity of this as well. Just do things like that. Okay. And if you just simply want more of red and you wanted to kind of just adjust it however you feel works. Okay. So this is how you make gradients. I will also explain it one more time just because Ilsa wants to understand. So you simply make your shape or whatever it is that you're working on. How do you get 3 boxes? 1 second, I will explain it. So basically what you do is you go into fill, right? You can drag this wherever you want for you to see your elements better. You go into linear, right? And basically all of the others are pretty much the same way in terms of navigating. So I'm just going to explain one of them and then you can go around and check out all the rest. So I am filling up this color as, so this one, I want it to be blue. I want it to be this blue. And then this color, I want it to be, for example, yellow. The opacity, I'll bring it up because I want the colors to be visible for you guys to see the gradients. Now, for you to get 3 boxes, you can even get 4 boxes. There's no limit to the amount of boxes that you can have in a gradient. All you do is you come to the spectrum, Ahyan, and then you just click at any point of this spectrum. Just click on here, and automatically you get another box. Then you can change the color, you can change the opacity, and do whatever fits well for you. Okay, is it clear? And you can also change its position wherever you want it to be. And you can also change the direction of this gradient, just rotate it around. And yeah, that's how you do it. And you can, once you're done, just cross this and it will be done. So these are our gradient circles or shapes, however you want to go about this. Next up, we're going to go with stroke, which we've already done. We've already covered stroke, but I'll just explain it one more time. Once you click on any shape or any element, you get the option here that says stroke, right? You simply come here, you click on stroke, and then you get a background or a border. Let me change the color so it's more visible. It's white. You can change the border to 20, make it thicker, and stuff like that. One thing you can also do with your stroke is simply come here. If, for example, you don't want a solid line, you want like a dashed or a dotted line for your stroke or your line, you come here to these 3 dots, which says Advanced Stroke Settings. You click here and you get an option for stroke style. and then you can just go with the dash, or you can also customize your stroke style. Now, see how this looks so alienatic. You can just play around with these numbers on the distances or the widths of or the lengths of these dashes. Yeah. Another thing you can do with them is you can particularly, okay, this is something that I'll teach you with the shape example. Now, basically, this is what you do with strokes. You can have a solid line, you can have a dash line, or you can customize your strokes as well. Is this clear, everyone? I cannot drink water. I am fasting, by the way. I cannot even drink water. No. Yeah. Okay. Lovely, lovely. We're almost done, by the way, guys. So hopefully we will be able to finish off early. Yep. If guys, even if you guys like, once you guys start practicing, oh, Ilsa, I'll explain that 1 second. Once you guys start practicing Figma, and if you guys have any questions, you can always ask on the group, or you can also just personally text me or Usher, whoever you feel comfortable with, and we can help you with all of this stuff. Okay. One thing you can do with text. So for example, Ilsa, here you have a text. It says, "Hi, Ilsa," right? So this is an option that isn't particularly available for all types of fonts. Now, for example, if I choose the font Italiano, it doesn't have that option to make it bold or to make it thick. Okay. But for some sorts of fonts like Inter, you can make it thick. So you simply come here, you have an option for a drop down, and you can make it black, you can make it extra bold, you can simply make it bold. So this is how you kind of just play around with the bold settings. Oh my God, Obed, please have mercy. You can watch the recording. Have mercy. Yep. Okay. Next up, we're going to talk about exporting your files. Yes, Usher is very right. Poppins or Inter, and they like these are very common fonts when it comes to web designing, especially for graphic designing. Obviously, you can go funky. But for web designing, just simple text are very easy to use. Next up, we're going to do export. So for example, this is a circle and I want to export this gradient circle. What do is you click on this element, you come here. Here you have an export option, you click on plus. Once you click on the plus sign, you have an option to export it as an SVG, as a PDF, as a hello, everyone. I am back. Great. Okay. Hi everyone. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I think I clicked my earphones and then I got logged out. That's what happened. But we are back. Yep. Okay. Let me know if you guys can hear me fine, please. So no. I just clicked my earphones and it kicked me out of the meeting. Oh, but that's just a personality trait. Can we do wireframe before rest of the topics, please? Yes, of course. Wireframing is very small. I will do that. Sure, I'll do that. In any form that you want, and then you just click on export the ellipse, and then you get an option to save it however you want. Right. See, it gets you an option to save as, and then there we go. So this is how. Thank you, Ilsa. Thank you. Now, how exactly do you group things together? What do is you personally just drag these, click your left side of the mouse, or you can also just simply press Shift and select your elements separately. Once you've done these, once you've selected your elements, you click on Control and you click G. Okay, and these are personally grouped together and you can just move them around together. Is that okay? So this is what you do when you have grouped your elements. You can just move them around collectively. And also notice how in your left panel, you have a drop down for a group. And once you open it, you have You can also ungroup them by clicking on your right mouse button, and you simply just go here and you ungroup, which is also a control and backspace option. This is simply how you group things. And next up is pages. And through pages, we're gonna transition into wireframing. Please make a duck. Oh my God. Obed, you example, you just have a collaborative team that's working on your designs, and maybe you all want to work on the same project file, but like on different pages, right? You just like don't want to clutter everything in one page. What you can simply do is Figma has an option. If you're using the unpaid version, Figma has an option to make 3 pages, maximum 3 pages. Page option here. There's a drop down, you click on it, and you're going to get option of page 2, and then you can always obviously make a page 3 as well. I already have page 2 made, which is why it's already coming here. So you click on your pages and look where we are. We are at the wireframing part of our workshop, which is the last part. So congratulations, everyone. We're almost done with our Figma basic workshop course thingy. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about what exactly is wireframing. Wireframing has nothing much to do with Figma personally, but it's more to do with web designing as a whole, right? So what exactly does wireframing do? Wireframing is simply just a very rough draft of what you want your website to look like, right? Wireframing is simply what you have planned, how your web page is going to look like, how people are going to navigate through your website and all of that. That's what wireframing is. Now there's two types of wireframing. So you can either do it manually, where you basically grab a piece of paper and you're making designs and you're, working on just a piece of paper with your pen and pencil, right? And you're editing as you go. And there's also another type of wireframing, which is digital wireframing, where you use softwares like Framer, you use softwares like Figma to make your wireframes digitally on your screen, right? So I think digitally it makes it just so much more easier, because then you can just always erase things, get rid of things, and then, instead of messing up the piece of paper which you're working on with a pen or a pencil and you're constantly erasing things. So digital wireframing, I personally would suggest, but if you're just starting off with wireframing, it's always good to kind of grab a rough piece of paper and just draw multiple options for your web design. Now, what exactly are the 3 particular stages of wireframing, right? So the 3 stages of wireframing are low fidelity, mid fidelity, and high fidelity. Now, low fidelity is basically the core of your user flow, right? How exactly the user is going to be moving around your website. How do you plan for that user to kind of navigate their way through your application or your website? So for example, the low fidelity wireframing is just going to be like the skeleton of your website, right? I'm also going to be showing you examples. Now, this is your low fidelity, the very first part of your, let me just kind of highlight this with a pencil. Let me just highlight this with a pencil. Now, this is your low fidelity. I'm sorry, I'm a little frustrated with this pencil tool, but this is the first one is your low fidelity wireframing. Now, what the low fidelity wireframing particularly does is it is the skeleton of your website. There's not much going on. There's no text on it. This is just the hierarchy of how things are going to go about. So there's no color, there's no style, there's not much text. It's just basically talking about your user interactions and what the user needs. So for example, if this is a sign up page, then maybe their image is going to show up here, the logo is going to show up here, some welcome text is going to show up here, a continue text is going to show up here, right? So that's all there's going to be in a low fidelity wireframing. When you move on to your second stage of wireframing, which is the mid fidelity, which its core function or its core purpose is functionality. How exactly and what exactly is your web page going to be saying? What exactly is going to be, portrayed and communicated through this particular web page? So it's going to be completely black and white, digital. It could be digital, it could be manual wireframe, but particularly it's just very important to keep it very simple. You don't have to go in with like complete gradients and designs and styles and colors. All you need to do is you have a content layout. So what is this box going to say? What is this picture going to particularly, be communicating, which is going to be through this text. So this is just going to be like your content layout and the overall structure of how you want this to be. Okay. Is it clear so far, guys? And then I'm going to move on to the high fidelity, which is the last part of wireframing. Please let me know if I'm going too fast or if you still want me to repeat anything. I will do that. Okay, lovely. So lastly, we're going to talk about the low fidelity. Okay, and high fidelity. Sorry, I think I'm losing it now. High fidelity's main and core focus is usability and design. Now, this is where your gradients come in. This is where your fonts come in, your typography, the exact message that you want to put in here. What exactly is the button going to say? What it's going to look like? It is particularly going to focus deeply on the content. It's going to particularly focus deeply on the user interface. The user interface meaning the exact layout of the website, what it's going to look like with colors and designs, right? It's also going to be, talking about the hover states, basically what happens when you click on the button or when you're hovering over the button and stuff like that. So yeah, it resembles the exact final product that you want the users to see before it being a final product. So it's just simply a design of that product. Hopefully it's clear. So this is the first stage is low fidelity. It's very basic, just simple wireframing. There's no text, there's no pictures, there's no colors. It's maybe if you could even just go about making it on a piece of paper, it's totally fine. The next one is mid fidelity, where you add in your, text, a little bit of content layout, how you want things to be, where the text is going to be, what it's going to look like. And lastly, it's going to be the design, the styles, the colors, the buttons, and all of that stuff. So this is particularly the very basics of wireframing. Oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm ruining everything, but this is the basics of wireframing. Hopefully you guys understand. Just a few benefits that you guys would want to know about wireframing is it particularly saves a lot of time, because when you are do we have the notification bar in high fidelity? Of course you do. You do have notification bars because you're not just particularly making one screen in high fidelity. You're making multiple screens of throughout your web. This is just an example to show you that what each of these screens will look like. But of course, you're gonna make every single screen bit by bit. And then you're always gonna see what the notification would look like if it pops up onto the website. What exactly is everything going to look like? So every stage is going to have all of the screens of your web page. But they're just going to be at different stages. So one's going to be super simple, one's going to have more content, the other one's going to be completely thoroughly designed. Rahim, is that clear? Okay, perfect. So yeah, um, so some benefits that I would just kind of end off wireframing and this entire session with is that it's particularly going to save you a lot of time, right? Because once you have a complete layout in your mind before you start designing, it just makes things so much easier, so much faster, and you won't have to constantly change things, right? You, especially in the main design, because it's such a big hassle when you're constantly changing things in your main design, because things are so much more complex in your main design as opposed to just a low fidelity or a mid fidelity wireframe, right? It saves you a lot of money. You're just doing it on a piece of paper. There's not much going on there, right? It's particularly also very easy to kind of pick out flaws in your user experience or your user flow, especially at the very first wireframing stage, because you're kind of just visualizing the layout, right? So it makes making changes a lot easier, and it puts in a lot of less effort when it comes to designing, because now you just have a clear cut idea of what you want your design to look like and what you want your website to look like. So yeah, it just simply helps you determine the overall development requirements, and it helps you create better design systems. So as you go about these stages, you can just pick out better fonts that you want to have consistency with. You can pick out better colors that you want to have consistency with. And yeah, wireframing is just very important. That's something that I'm also doing currently these days with Knowfly's main website. So yeah, it's a lot of fun because I think it just makes you visualize the website a lot better and helps you be more consistent with your design. Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Me and Asher, literally, that's one of our lifesavers, because changing the main design is so much more painful than just changing this weird piece of paper, you know? So it hurts less. It hurts less. But yeah, I think we are done. We are done with today's workshop, guys. Oh my God. I'm gonna like go to sleep now. Let's just all collectively sleep. Also, Obed, I think you missed out on something. So I will I will share it with you. I will, we are going to, here you go. Here you guys go. This is my gift to you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Like, honestly, you guys made this session amazing. I am really tired because I am fasting, so I cannot even drink water. But this is just fun times. The Duck Queen is here. The Duck Queen is here. Thank you guys so much for being here. It was honestly absolutely amazing. If you guys have any questions, please do ask me. You guys can privately ask me. You can ask on the group. Whatever works fine. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We should